All right, Shalom, Shalom. Bayaf Yasha Allah. It's Akak Kabasha now with WFI Detroit. First and foremost, I want to give a call. Yahweh, Bashem Mashiach, Mamalak Yahushua. All right, it's all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world will inwardly call Jesus the Christ. Right, the anointed Savior of Yasha Allah, you princes of the power, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Shalom, Shalom. Right, today's cold cut. We're going into the furnishing of the temple or the tabernacle, right? You got the brazen altar, the table of shewbread, right? You got the golden altar of incense, the bath, right? And we go touch into all of these different furnishings of the temple, all right? First, I want to kick it off with a quick precept, right? Bear with me. Yeah, just give me a quick second. I want to kick it off with this precept. Let's get the book of Exodus. All right, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 25, verse number 9. It says, according to all that I shew thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it. And this is Moses speaking to, it's like, this is the Most High speaking to Moses. He told him the same way that I'll show you the tabernacle in the third heaven, that's how you're going to create it on the earth, right? Because let's get Matthew 6, right? Let's get the book of Matthew, the 6th chapter. All right, this is Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, verse number 9. It says, after this matter, therefore, pray ye, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So the Most High wants his will to be done as it is in the third heaven, to be done the same way it is here on the earth. All right, let's get that in Acts. Right, so the same way the angels operate as priests in the third heaven, that's how the priests operated here on earth. Right? So we gotta dive into this, man. All right. Bear with me. The book of Acts, chapter 7, verse number 44. It says, our fathers had a tabernacle of witness in the wilderness, as he appointed, speaking unto Moses, that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen. Now, what did Moses see, man? He was in the cloud, right? He actually seen the third heaven. All right, let's get that in the book of Exodus. All right, this is Exodus, right? So I can bear with me. I'm gonna get that exact point when he went into the cloud. Right, Exodus. No, I'm gonna get Deuteronomy. All right, so I can bear with me. Right, the book of Deuteronomy. Right. You'll get Deuteronomy chapter 5. And where I want to start. I'm gonna start at I'm gonna start at 25. This is after he gave the 10 commandments. Right? It says, now therefore, right? This is Deuteronomy 5 and 25. Now therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God any more, then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh that have heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the midst of the fire, as we have and live? Go thou near and hear that so I can hear all that the Lord our God shall say, and speak thou unto us all that the Lord our God shall speak unto thee, and we will hear it and do it. Right? Because Moses was a mediator, so he went into the cloud and spoke to the Most High. Right? Let's get that in Sirach. Right? That he was speaking, or he had a vision and was in the third heaven. Right? Dealing with the Most High giving them the commandments. And one thing he told them was or showed them the pattern of the tabernacle, right? It's the book of Sirach 45 and verse 4. It says, he sanctified him in his faithfulness and meekness and chose him out of all men. Like this is talking about Moses, right? When you read the first verse, reading on, it says, he made him hear his voice and brought him into the dark cloud. Right? That cloud is talking about the chariot, right? So he brought him into the chariot, so-called abducted Moses, man, right? He brought him in the chariot and gave him commandments before his face, even the law of life and knowledge, that he might teach Jacob his statutes and Israel his judgments. All right, playing upon table. So Moses was given the commandments in this cloud, man. Right? The tables of stone. And he was also given the pattern of the tabernacle, right? Which later Solomon, the Most High gave David the pattern of the temple, which is just a larger version and grander version of the tabernacle of witness, right? So we go deal with this tabernacle, deal with the temple and the furnishings within the temple, right? So let's get the book of Exodus, right? The 26th chapter. I'm going to start at verse 31. It says, and thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubims shall it be made. Right, now this is talking about the actual veil. Now this veil divided the holy place from the most holy place. All right, and we go deal with that when we keep reading. And I'm actually pull up pictures of the how they would depict the temple so you can get the visual. It says, and thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be made of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the thatches. Right, hang it up like a damn shower curtain, man. Right? It says that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony, and the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. Right? So this is talking about within the tabernacle. Right? The tabernacle, because it's outside of that. You got the outer court, you got the court of the tabernacle. In the court, that's where you got the altar and you got the laver, the laver, or the bath, pretty much, where they'll wash themselves. The sons of Aaron, they'll wash themselves before they go into the actual tabernacle. So this is talking about the actual tabernacle. It's a blue veil within it that divides the most holy from the holy place. And within the most holy place is the ark of the testimony. That's the ark of the covenant. All right. Let's get Hebrews real fast. All right, let's get the book of Hebrews. Let's see what's inside the ark of the covenant. Right, if you didn't know, let's get it. Book of Hebrews, chapter 9. In verse number 3, it says, and after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. Right. So it had the Ark of the Covenant written with the finger of the Most High, right, according to Deuteronomy 9 and 10. You had the Aaron's rod that budded, right, to show that they had to listen to Aaron and Moses, right, when they were scoffing against. And then it has a pot of manna, right, to show the work that the Lord did in the wilderness. All those things was in the Ark of the Covenant. Right, you got the ark, and then it's a mercy seat, which is just a lid with angels on the top of it. All right, so that's within the veil. Right, so I'm gonna actually pull a picture up, see what we can find online real quick. Right, just so we can get the visual through the spirit. So you got the still the tabernacle of witness. Should go grab this book I got, but let's deal with this. Furnishing the tabernacle. Let's see. I want to deal with this. Let's see if it shows everything that's this looks something. Okay. Here we are. So this will be the veil. This is the tabernacle, this little part here. Right? They got the brazen altar, they got the bath. Right? This is the tabernacle right here. And you got the veil. Right? Like you said, like it's like a shower curtain, if you can see that. Right? You got the veil, and within it is the Ark of the Covenant. That's the only thing within the veil. Right? So Exodus 26, right, in verse 34. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the Ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil. Now, this is the table. Now, what is this table? This is the table of Shewbeard, right? So let's deal with it. Right? Let's get the book of Exodus chapter 25, verse number 23. And thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereon a crown of gold round about. Right, describing the table of Shewbeard. Right, let's pull up a picture of this. Right, you guys can just look up the furnishing of the tabernacle. Right. So that's the table of Shewbeard right here. Right, that's what we're reading about, the table of Shewbeard, which is without the veil, right? In the tabernacle is without the veil in the holy place. This is the holy place. This is the most holy place. Right? Then I'm gonna jump down to verse 30. Right? Exodus 25 and 30. And thou shalt set upon the table shewbread before me always. Right? So they would set shewbread on this table. Right? It's rolls of 6, 12 pieces of shewbread. Right? And they did that every Sabbath. Right? And I want to pull that precept. Bear with me. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse number 5. Leviticus 24 and 5. It says, and thou shalt take fine flour and bake 12 cakes thereof. 2/10 deals shall be in one cake, and thou shalt set them in 2 rows, 6 on a row, on the pure table before the Lord. Right, that's going into this table of shewbread right here. right? Table of pure gold. It says, and thou shalt put pure frankincense upon each row, that it may be the bread for a memorial, even an offering made unto fire before the Lord. Every Sabbath shall he set it in order before the Lord continually, being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons, right, which are the priests, right? All these different Levites have different duties. Aaron's sons, they were the priests. It's right, and it says, and they shall eat it in the holy place, for it is most holy unto him of the offerings of the Lord made by fire, by by a perpetual statute. So they would eat it in here. It would, do the bath, they put on the garment, they go in, lay it out, and then they'll eat the shewbread. All right. So let's go back to Exodus 26. So that's the table of shewbread, just hanging out without the veil. Right? It's like Exodus 26. Right, in verse 35, it says, and thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south, and thou shalt put the table on the north side. All right. I'm thinking they not really putting this how it is. Like it's supposed to be placed in a different way. It's more like it where it's on the north. You can't really see. Okay, yeah, this is the one I actually was looking for. All right, so here it is. This is the veil, Ark of the Covenant. That's the table of shewbread. And now this is the candlestick, which is the menorah. Right? The candlestick, that's the menorah. Yeah, they're supposed to be separate like that. So you got the bread right here, then you got the menorah right here, because it says, in verse 35, it says, the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south, and thou shalt put the table on the north side. So that picture, they had them all together. So, so that's how it is. It's actually separate. One is on the south, one is on the north side. All right, Salaki. Now, let's touch on this candlestick. This is actually the menorah, right? We got the 7 lamps. That's the menorah. All right. And let's deal with the menorah. All right, Exodus 25, verse number 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work. It's like if beaten work shall the candlestick be made, his shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knobs, and his flowers shall be of the same. And the 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick on the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick on the other side. So you got the candle and 3 on each side. And even when you look at what's that thing called? I can't think of it. It's an actual ancient artifact that depicts the menorah. You look that up. I don't know. I got the name of it somewhere. That's what it's called, the Magdala stone. Right, and I actually did a code cut on this Magdala stone through the spirit. We got WFI archaeology, but yeah, this is on here, right? Plain upon tables. So that's the menorah, right? The 7 candlesticks. All right. And they'll constantly keep that candle lit. Right. So I can make sure we understand. Right. They'll constantly keep the candle lit. Right. Let's go to Leviticus. We're gonna go back to Leviticus 24. Right. Leviticus 24, verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto the pure oil olive beaten for the light to cause the lamps to burn continually." So they had to continually burn the lamps on the menorah. Right? It says, without the veil of testimony. Now, it's like I want to touch on why they have to continually burn. Right? Because again, everything that this tabernacle is based on is in the third heaven. So I want to jump really fast to the book of Revelation. I want to say it's the 4th chapter. It's not the 4th chapter. Let me find this real quick. I might have to look it up, but because even when you read Revelation, you will see all these different things within the tabernacle being mentioned. That's not what I want. Here it is. It's the book of Revelation 4 and verse 5. It says, "And out of the throne proceeding thunderings." It's like proceeding thunderings. It's like proceeding lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of burning fire before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. Right? So that menorah represents the 7 spirits of the Most High, man. Right? You see that? So that's why that thing got to constantly be burning, man. Because the Most High is always on fire. So that's just a side note to show an example of how the things in the third heaven relate on the earthly realm. Right? Even when you deal with the altar of incense, when they offer up the prayers of the saints, they offer it with the incense. Right? So it's just different levels to that. All right, but let's go back to Leviticus 24 and 3. It says, "Without the veil of the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation shall Aaron order it from the evening until the morning before the Lord continually. It shall be a statute. It's like it shall be a statute forever in your generations. He shall order the lamps upon the pure candlestick before the Lord continually." Right? So he constantly keeps that lamp burning. Right? Let me get this. All right, Leviticus. It's like, something different. We'll get that in a sec. All right, so that's those 2 items, the menorah and the table of shewbread, all without the veil. All right, then you got the Ark of the Covenant within the veil. Now this right here, right, this is the altar of incense. Right, so let's get the altar of incense. Right, it's the book of Exodus chapter 30 verse 1. "And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 80 shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Now everything within this is pure gold, right? The pure table of shewbread, the candlestick, the altar, the Ark of the Covenant is all pure gold, right? Reading on, it says, it's like, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof, and thou shalt make unto it a crown of pure gold round about. Right? I'm going to jump down to verse 6. It says, and thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. Right? So you put it before the mercy seat, right outside the veil, as you see it in this picture. It says, and Aaron shall burn thereon sweet incense every morning. When he dresseth the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. Right? So Aaron, the high priest will come in, burn the candlestick, and then he'll light incense and do that every morning and even. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at even, he shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. Right? And like I said, even the angels, they do that as well, man. That's why we always say the hour of prayer, because it's a certain time where they'll burn the incense. And that's just how it is in the third heaven as well. Right? Let me actually just pull it in Revelation. Right? Forget the exact chapter, might be. Right? We offer the prayers of the saints. Right, bear with me. All right, this is Revelation 8. In verse number 3, it says, and another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar, which is before the throne. The mercy seat represents the throne, man. And this golden altar, that's where he'll burn the incense to the Lord, which is the prayer with the prayers of the saints. All right. We can get an example of this being done as well, the book of Luke. Right, of a priest doing this particular task. Right, book of Luke, the first chapter. Right, it's the book of Luke, chapter 1. Right, in verse number 5. I'm gonna just get the point. I'm gonna start at 8. And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God, in order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense. When he went into the temple of the Lord, he was burning incense. And the whole multitude of people were praying without at the time of incense. Right? So people would be out there praying, man, during that time. During the evening, during that time of incense. He'd go in there in the morning and burn it, and he went in the evening and burnt it. Right? And even on top of this, we have morning and evening sacrifices as well. Right? Which is what we can just go and dive into. Let me on that exact precept. Right? Because that's another thing, or that's another part of the offerings. All right, bear with me. I got to kind of get into this thing. or this another part of the actual furnishings. Okay, yeah, that's the precept. Right? 29 and 38. Right? It says, now this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar. Now, this isn't the altar incense. Right? So I want to, doesn't show the whole thing. Let me, it said copper, but this is going into the brazen altar. Right? Let me get another picture. This is actually within the court. These pictures, man, are not the best. That's this thing here. All right. So you got the tabernacle with those furnishings we just named, the Ark of the Covenant, which is within the veil. And you got the menorah, you got the table of shewbread, the altar of incense, all within the tabernacle. And outside, you have the actual altar, the brazen altar, and then the brazen bath or laver, right? Which we're gonna get into. But it says, now this is Exodus 29 and 38. Now this is the offering which thou shalt offer upon the altar, 2 lambs of the first year, day to day, continually. So they did this every day. The 1 lamb thou shalt offer in the morning, and the other lamb thou shalt offer at even. Right? So this is the even and morning sacrifice. Yeah. Offer the lamb, then they go within the veil and light the menorah, and then they'll give the incense. This is what they did every morning and every evening. The priest, right, did these different offices and duties. Right, reading on, it says, and with the one lamb, a 10th deal of flour mingled with the 4th part of a hin beaten oil, and the 4th part of a hin of wine for a drink offering. Right, so you every I don't want to word it wrong, but every free will and I believe sin offering comes with a drink and a meat offering, which would just mean grain, right? Where they'll take a certain amount of flour, they'll burn it, throw the rest on the incense, right? They'll throw the rest on the incense, and then they'll cook the rest of it pretty much, and they'll eat their food with the cake. So they eat the lamb with the cake, and that's how they did their offerings. All right. So let's go into this altar. Right, this is a brazen altar. Right. This is Exodus 27 and 1. And thou shalt make an offering. It's like an altar of shittim wood. It's like 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. Right, so it wasn't overlaid with gold, but brass. That's why it's known as the brazen altar. Right, and let's get First Chronicles or Second Chronicles. Right, just to further prove they did sacrifices on this particular altar. Right, it's the book of Second Chronicles, chapter 1, verse 4. And the ark of God had brought. It's like I'm gonna start at 3. It says, so Solomon and all the congregation with him went to the high place that was at Gibeon, right? Because that tabernacle is movable, right? You can even kind of see it in this picture, right? This was a movable tabernacle, right? Aaron and his sons, they're covered the things at a most holy place, and then they'll carry the tabernacle where they'll go, and it ended up in Gibeon, right? So Solomon went to Gibeon. It says, for there was the tabernacle of the congregation of God, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, had made in the wilderness. But the ark of the Most High had David brought up from Kirjath Jearim to the place which David had prepared for it, for he pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem, right? But the Ark of the Covenant wasn't within this veil because they brought it to try to fight against the Philistines. The Philistines took it. XYZ, it ended up in one place. David moved it to a tent that he pitched for it in Jerusalem. So everything else was in Gibeon, and the Ark of the Covenant was in Jerusalem. Read it on. Right? It's like, right, bear with me. It's like Satan taking away the word. All right, this stuff, right? Second Chronicles chapter 1, verse number 5. It says, moreover, the brazen altar that Bezaleel, the son of Ur, and the son of Hur had made, he put before the tabernacle of the Lord, and Solomon and the congregation sought unto it. And Solomon went up thither to the brazen altar before the Lord, which was at the tabernacle of the congregation, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings upon it. Right? So that's the brazen altar. You would do different sacrifices on the brazen altar. All right. Right? So you did different sacrifices there. Right? Now, this is the last furnisher in the tabernacle, which, right, it's the bath or the laver, however you want to pronounce it. All right, let's get Exodus 30 and 17. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, thou shalt also make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass, to wash withal. And thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. So it's between the altar and the tabernacle. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet withal. When they go into the tabernacle or the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. And when they come near to the altar to minister to burnt offering made by fire, they shall wash their hands and their feet, that they die not. And it shall be a statute forever to them, even to them and to his seed throughout their generations. All right. So, hey, man, when they went into the tabernacle, they had to wash themselves. When they actually went, when they did sacrifice, they had to wash their hands and their feet, right? Because you're dealing with killing animals and blood and different things. You're dealing with it's something extremely holy, like the work of the Lord. So they have to wash themselves, right? Now this altar, it was remade during Solomon's reign, and it was a bigger bath during a bigger, mightier bath, like in looks in Solomon's reign. And and Solomon actually had 10 candlesticks and 10 tables of shewbread within the ark. I mean, in the tabernacle. I want to get that just real fast. Right, so it all works the exact same, but it was just more of it. Because that's just how Solomon was getting down through the spirit. So we finna get Second Chronicles, right? Chapter 4 and verse 6. It says, he also made 10 lavers and put 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left to wash in them. Such things as they offered for burnt offering, they washed in them, but the sea was for the priest to wash in. Right, so he had 10 lavers, right? Let's pull this up. And the sea was just a bigger laver. I want to. Solomon, let's check this. All right. Temple with Solomon. This is good right here. Right, so they had 5 on each of these on each side. So after they did offering, check that out. After they did offerings, they'll wash their hands. But this is the sea. That's where Aaron and his sons will wash themselves and enter into the actual court. I mean, the actual tabernacle. And I don't know if you can see, but it's 5 menorahs right here. Right? It says, and he made 10 candlesticks of gold according to their form, right? He made the menorah and set them in the temple, 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left. He made also 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right and on the right and 5 on the left. He made 100 basins of gold. All right. So there you have it, man. So in Solomon's temple, it was missing the shewbread. It's supposed to be 5 shewbread and 5 menorahs on each side. All right. And that's the bath, which is just a huge version of the laver. So the original laver there just had one they'll all wash up in it or whatever, but now it's separated in Solomon's temple. But it's all used for the exact same purpose at the end of the day. Right, I want to go into the sea, right? The bath or the sea is what they call it. Let's get 1 Kings 7th chapter. Right, 1 Kings chapter 7. And 44, it says, I'm going to start at 43. And 10 basins and 10 lavers of basins, and 1 sea, and 12 oxen under the sea. Right, and that's the 12 oxen. You had 3 oxen on each side. Actually, trying to see, it actually expresses the sea being made. It might be in Chronicles, but I mean, pretty much get the point. So those are the furnishings of the temple. You got the menorah, right? The 7 golden candlesticks that they lit every evening and morning. You got the altar incense they lit every evening and morning, right? You got the bath, right, where the priests will wash their clothes. You got the laver, where the men will wash their hands and feet after doing offerings on the brazen altar. You got the Ark of the Covenant within the veil. All right, these are all the different things right? That was within the tabernacle. I mean, within the whole temple, right? The whole offerings and workings of the temple through the Spirit, man. So this is some mighty stuff. This is our forefathers. It's our history, man. All right, and this is how this thing went down, man, through the Spirit. All right. And we don't to answer that question, let me get this precept. Right, say bring it out. Do y'all replicate any of this, like burn incense? Like we're at the high priest. All right, let's get this precept. Right, in Sirach chapter 35 and verse 1. He that keepeth the law bringeth offerings enough. He that taketh heed to the commandment offer a peace offering. Right, so that's our offerings, right? Doing these different acts of the Lord, right? Because Hamashiach Yahushua, when he died, right, when he was crucified, the veil actually tore. All right, representing that Levite, that Levitical priesthood being diminished and not being as significant, because only the high priest could go into the veil. It was this real deep thing. But when Yahushua was crucified, that tore, man. That's what that whole thing represents, right? He's our sacrifice. All right, let's get Psalms chapter 4, verse 7. All right, Psalms 4 and 7, or 4 and 5. Right, it says, offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in Yahweh. Right, so that's our sacrifices now. So we don't do the burnt offerings or things of that nature. All right, we just keep the law, statutes, and commandments because we're actually under a new priesthood. Right, and let me get one more precept on that. All right, in the book of Hebrews. Book of Hebrews, chapter 10, and verse 6. It says, in burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, thou hast had no pleasure. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me to do thy will, O God. Above, when he said sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and sacrifice for sin, thou wouldest not, neither hast thou pleasure in them which are offered by the law. Then said he, lo, I come to do thy will, O God. He taketh away the first, that he may establish the second, talking about that first covenant, by which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Hamashiach Yahushai once for all, and every priest standing daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices, right? The morning and evening sacrifice, which can never take away sins. But this man, Yahushua, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of the Most High. Right, so Yahushua was that sacrifice. So we don't do these same different ordinances, but it's important to know these ordinances because they're to further and broaden your understanding of the Bible. That's why you got to drink of that milk when you read Exodus. You just read Exodus 26 and you just scratching your head because it say cubit and breadth it. You don't know what's going on. You got to dive into that and understand what are these different items and tools made for. Right? If you don't know about the table of Shewbeard coming out on the Sabbath and things like that, when you read in 1 Samuel, when Abimelech, he wouldn't let David get the Shewbeard, you wouldn't understand what is hallowed bread, what is these things. Or you're reading Revelation, it's talking about offering the prayers with incense. It's talking about golden censers and smoke covering and all these different things. You're like, wait, what is this talking about? All right, but you have to understand the milk, the basis of the scriptures. All right. So with that, I'm gonna give a Kwam Yasha Allah, right? Lord willing, that was edifying through the spirit and power of Hamashiach Yahushua, right? Through his Father Yahweh. Right. I love y'all. Stay praying, stay fasting, stay diligent through the spirit. Kwam Yasha Allah. Shalom.